Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a great Friday so far. In today's update, we're going to be talking about our severe weather risk across the U.S. for the next couple of days. So we'll start off with the severe weather risk. We'll talk about that just briefly, and then we're going to talk about the tropics and see how things are going to start to play out as we get into next week, because I think the tropics are starting to kind of wake up a little bit, and we're going to be seeing more activity, especially into the Atlantic as we get further into August. So let's go ahead and get started with the update for today. For today on Friday, August 8th, we have a slight risk of severe weather into Minnesota, Wisconsin, southeastern North Dakota, and into eastern South Dakota as well. So we have that slight risk along with a 5% and 2% tornado risk, and also a wind and hail risk. If we zoom out here, we also have a little bit of a risk into Michigan and into North Dakota and Montana as well. And once again, that is just a wind risk in Michigan and a hail risk in both of those areas. For tomorrow on Saturday, August 9th, we have two slight risk, one into the Midwest U.S. and then one into Colorado and Kansas, with a marginal risk around those slight risk for tomorrow on Saturday. We just have a 2% tornado risk for both of those areas tomorrow on Saturday, along with a wind risk and a hail risk, especially down into Colorado and western Kansas. For Sunday, August 10th, we just have a marginal risk here into Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois, and that is once again for Sunday. Taking a look at the GFS weather model here for the north central U.S. today on Friday. And so storms are going to start to develop as we get further kind of into the evening. We'll actually zoom in a little bit here so you can see storms will start to form here into Minnesota and the Dakotas, and then further into the night we could see a longer line of storms move eastward into Minnesota, Wisconsin, even into Iowa. And if we take a look at instability here, we'll have plenty of instability this evening across these areas, especially into Minnesota and Iowa. So storms will be able to form and kind of like explode, you could say, in intensity, because there'll just be so much instability there, and those storms will be able to take advantage of that instability, that storm fuel, and get going. And that will once again be a little bit of a tornado risk along with a wind and hail risk across those areas today on Friday or Saturday. So some of these storms could honestly still be going tomorrow morning into portions of the north central U.S. And so these should pretty much re-intensify as we get into tomorrow afternoon and evening. And we could have another kind of secondary band of storms into Wisconsin and then into Iowa tomorrow on Saturday. And then if we look across further into the south central U.S., we could see some more storm coverage begin really by late tomorrow evening and even to tomorrow night, across even Colorado, Kansas, even the Oklahoma panhandle. And if we look at instability here, we'll have a decent bit of instability into those areas. So we'll see how that plays out, but most of the storms should start to develop by tomorrow evening in those areas. Now for Sunday, August 10th, we could see some storms begin to form once again well into the evening hours by Sunday across Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, even into Illinois, and we could just see a long, extended, kind of chopped up band of storms all the way even from Iowa into Kansas or Oklahoma. So if we look at instability for Sunday, we could see here we have a pretty decent bit of instability into Missouri showing up for Sunday, but I think the main area we could see the storms will be primarily into southern Missouri, southern Illinois, into Kansas and Oklahoma for Sunday. So the latest 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time update just came out a little bit ago, about an hour ago, but we still have this area off the coasts of kind of the mid-Atlantic, and so this will just have a 10% chance of developing within the next 2 and 7 days. So the confidence in this developing into a storm has decreased quite a bit. So this may not even develop at all, actually. So that's a good thing for sure. But we also have this area out here into the X into the central Atlantic, and so this area has a 40% chance of developing within the next 7 days. So the chance of that developing has decreased just a little bit, and if this does develop into something, which I do think we could see a storm out here, I don't think it'll be too strong. If it is, it will not impact anybody at this time, but the main area we're going to have to watch is kind of off the west coast of Africa, where we're having more tropical waves come off Africa and move into the Atlantic, and we'll get to that further in just one moment. So right here we have the latest update from the Climate Prediction Center. So this was issued just about 3 days ago. So the Climate Prediction Center issued this area kind of east of the Lesser Antilles, and so this specific area right here has a 40% chance or greater of tropical cyclone formation. So we're going to see continued waves of tropical waves moving off the west coast of Africa into the Atlantic, and so they highlighted this area because they just think they are pretty positive that we're going to see some sort of development as we get these waves further westward, and this is going to be an area we'll have to watch for the next several days, especially as we get into next week, as they have highlighted above the 13th from the 19th. So we'll continue to watch this, and we'll look at some of the models in just one moment. So starting out with the latest GFS weather model, this is the 12Z run. So this is just the operational run, and so we can't really pay too much attention to this yet because it does go pretty far out. So the system we're kind of, or the area we're kind of watching, doesn't really evolve until once again next week. So this is just one run, keep that in mind. So we'll go ahead and start progressing this further here, and then we get to this weekend and then early next week, and then you can kind of see our new little low pressure start to develop off the west coast of Africa. And so if we look here by Tuesday and then Wednesday of next week, you can see this area remaining quite weak, and then as you get it further north of the Lesser Antilles and then eventually into the Greater Antilles, it starts to strengthen that even further, and we'll get to the Western Atlantic in just one moment. But keep this in mind, this is over 200 hours out, so this is still far enough out where plenty could change from now until then. So that's just the latest GFS weather model. Now looking at the European weather model, this is the latest 06Z run, so this won't quite go far enough for us to see, but the latest run here gets an area of low pressure, and really by about the middle portion of next week gets it heading towards kind of the Lesser Antilles, just north of Lesser Antilles. So that's the latest on that. We go to the 0Z run, which goes out further, has it the same area, and then it gets that further on and eventually starts to develop that as you kind of get into the Western Atlantic. So that's the latest European weather model, and once again this is well over 200 and even 300 hours out, so still a lot can and will change from now until then. So we'll also look just lastly at the European AI model. This has been a model that's been pretty reliable for the most part, especially with last hurricane season. But if we look at this model, you can see our area right here, that low pressure, a 1010 millibar low pressure system, gets that further into the Atlantic by late next week, and then eventually gets that into the Lesser Antilles, just north of the Lesser Antilles, and then further kind of towards the Bahamas as well, and also strengthens that as we get to the Western Atlantic. And by this point, this is not next Tuesday, but the next Tuesday after that. So once again, this is well over 200 hours out, So this is just a scenario we have to keep watching, but we can't say for sure this is going to happen or another model is going to come true at this point. We just got to kind of wait and see what happens right now. So we've looked at that. So now let's look at the Western Atlantic, and we can see these systems a little bit better. And so we have for the European AI model, once they get that right over and near the Bahamas by 2 weeks from now, or about a week and a half from now. The European weather model, the 0Z run, let's see what it has to show as well. Gets another system as well, very close to the southeast. And once again, don't pay too much attention to this. We're just seeing what all the models show. So finally, we'll look at the GFS weather model, and it also gets a system, but it gets it into the Gulf for a week and a half to 2 weeks out from now. So we have three really of the main models right now showing some sort of tropical activity as we get into the Western Atlantic by about a week from now. So even though we don't have a lot of agreement between the models specifically, we can kind of tell that this area has a potential to develop further as it gets further west into the Atlantic. Now, where it will go, we don't have a good idea of that yet. But I think most of these areas into the Western Atlantic need to keep an eye out and see how the models show the system as we move forward with time. But I would say by sometime in the middle or latter portions of next week, we could have a lot better idea of what this system could potentially do. It may just go out to sea, but it also could affect land. So we have a lot to figure out from now until then. So lastly, we'll look at the ensembles here. We'll look at the EPS ensembles. And what this is essentially a model put together with many different members. So we can look at the ensemble members here, and this gives us an idea of kind of the average location and even strength of some of the low pressures, not really low pressures, but some of the members show. So each of these little red numbers is a different member, and this gives us an idea of where we could see the greatest potential for a system. So this isn't many different systems at one time. This is just many different members put together kind of into one model so we can see it a little bit better, if that makes sense. But the European ensemble likes to show late next week an area east and just north of the Lesser Antilles. So this area right here shows the most members right now, and once you get further past that, it wants to strengthen them as they get into kind of warmer waters. So that's the latest EPS ensembles. The latest GFS ensembles wants to show the same thing, but also has many other pretty strong members. So the kind of darker you see these yellows, oranges, and reds, the stronger that area will be. So as you can see, these colors here kind of indicate how strong our area is going to be, or potentially going to be. So many of these members keep this low pressure out here very strong. And once again, this is getting pretty far out, but the ensembles are a little bit better to look at the location we could potentially see a system. So that's the latest on that. So I really do think the Western Atlantic just needs to be kind of watching this, and this may just go out to sea, but we're not to the point where we know that yet. So that's just the latest on that, and that's going to be it for today's update, and I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I hope y'all have a great weekend.